All right, let's jump right into a real puzzle today. We're looking at Taiwan, a place with one of the lowest birth rates on the planet, and we're asking a question that sounds completely backwards. Could higher home prices actually be linked to more babies? I know, it sounds nuts, but the data has a story to tell.
I mean, you've heard this a million times, right? It's practically accepted as fact. Young people can't afford to buy a home, so of course they're not having kids. It just feels like common sense. And when you first look at the numbers, it seems to back that up completely. But is that really the whole story?
So first up, let's look at piece number one of this puzzle, the housing market. From 2012 to 2024, there was really only one direction for Taiwan's housing prices, and that was straight up. It's a steep, undeniable climb, and it's the foundation for all this anxiety we hear about.
Okay, now let's bring in piece number two, the fertility rate. Over that same time frame, it's the mirror opposite. As home prices were soaring to the moon, the number of babies being born was steadily dropping, hitting some of the lowest levels anywhere in the world. So, case closed, right? High prices, no babies. Seems obvious.
Well, that's the thing about data. What looks obvious on the surface can be really misleading. What if there's something else going on, a hidden factor that's pushing both of these trends at the same time, creating an illusion of cause and effect? This is where we have to put on our statistician hats for a second. To find the real relationship between two things, you have to peel back all the other layers that might be influencing them. And the biggest, most powerful layer here is just the passage of time. A lot has changed in the last decade. So what happens if we can magically pull time out of the equation?
That hidden factor has a name. It's called a confounding variable. Here's a classic example. Ice cream sales and shark attacks both go up in the summer. Does that mean eating ice cream causes shark attacks? Of course not. The confounding variable is the summer heat. It makes more people go swimming, and it makes more people buy ice cream. In our case, time is that summer heat, pushing these two separate trends along.
And boom! This is the moment where everything we thought we knew gets turned completely upside down. Once the statisticians work their magic and control for that time variable, the relationship totally flips. That downward trend becomes an upward trend. This chart is telling us that, all other things being equal, periods with higher than average housing prices actually line up with periods of higher than average birth rates. Wild, right?
And it's not just a gut feeling. There's a hard number to back this up. The new correlation coefficient is positive 0.357. Now, in the world of statistics, that shows a real, moderate positive correlation. It's not just some random fluke. There is a genuine statistical link here, and it's the exact opposite of what everyone thought.
So, what does a number like that actually mean in plain English? Well, it means that once you remove that general time trend, the ups and downs in housing prices can statistically account for about 13% of the ups and downs in the fertility rate. Now, that's not everything, but it's definitely a significant piece of this puzzle.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking, hang on, isn't this the exact opposite of what we see in basically every other developed country? You would be absolutely right. This positive connection is bizarre. It goes against almost all the international research. So what on earth makes Taiwan so special?
To really get to the bottom of this paradox, we have to zoom out and look at the global picture, and then zoom right back in on one very unique, very powerful social factor in Taiwan that changes the entire game.
And this just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got Taiwan's unique data showing that positive relationship we just found. And on the right, that's the typical pattern you see across the globe. Hotter housing markets, where prices are shooting up, almost always lead to fewer babies. So again, why is Taiwan the exception to the rule?
The entire mystery, this whole counterintuitive puzzle, actually hinges on one single, very powerful number about Taiwanese society. And this one number changes everything about how the average person feels about the housing market. And the explanation reveals a social dynamic that's just completely different from what you'd find in, say, Europe or the United States. It's a story of who owns a home, and more importantly, how that shapes their entire outlook on life.
And here it is, the key to this entire puzzle. In Taiwan, the home ownership rate is a staggering 84%. Think about that. The overwhelming majority of people are not renters struggling to get on the ladder, they are already homeowners. And that changes everything.
Because of this, you basically have two different groups living in the same economy with totally opposite reactions to rising prices.
For that huge 84% chunk who already own their home, rising prices just make them feel richer, more secure. It actually boosts their confidence about having kids. But for that much smaller 16% who don't own, rising prices are crushing. It makes the dream of starting a family feel more and more out of reach.
It's something economists call the wealth effect. Just imagine, you own a house worth $8 million, and you have a $5 million mortgage on it. So your net worth is $3 million. But if that house price suddenly jumps to $10 million, your debt is still $5 million, but now your net worth is $5 million. You feel richer, even if you haven't sold the house. And that psychological boost is a really powerful driver for big life decisions.
So when you look at the statistics for the entire country, it really just becomes a numbers game. The positive, confident feeling of the 84% majority just mathematically overwhelms the negative, discouraging feeling of the 16% minority. So the overall data, the national average, reflects the experience of the majority.
Okay, so understanding this has huge implications. It's not just a fun little statistical oddity. It forces us to look past the popular complaints and really confront what the data is telling us about how society actually works.
And this explains a massive political paradox. You hear loud calls all the time for the government to do something to lower house prices, but those voices are most likely coming from that 16% minority. For any politician, actually succeeding in crashing housing prices would mean making the silent 84% homeowner majority financially poorer. And that is pretty much political suicide.
And really, this all comes down to the most important point of this entire explainer, captured perfectly in this quote. Data isn't supposed to make us feel good or confirm what we already believe. Its job is to show us reality. Whether we like the fact that higher home prices correlate with more babies in Taiwan is totally irrelevant. Bravely facing that data is the only way we can even begin to make smart, effective policies.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This housing paradox is such a powerful reminder that our common sense isn't always right. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other things that we all just assume are true might completely fall apart if we just had the courage to actually look at the data.